Airbnbs is the perfect example that started to introduce the sharing economy in the Web2 space, where essentially, if you own real estate, you can rent it out to any travelers, and Airbnb takes a fee by allowing you to register your property on their platform or
Hmm.
essentially their marketplace. So your real estate property is acting in this case on behalf of like a node that contributes to the overall network. Amazon, in a way, what they did with e-commerce, they started doing the same thing where they allowed an end user to tap into their platform and sell or exchange products via their platform. Then they take a fee, and then obviously the business model is built as such. Deepin is taking it a step further, where they are allowing complete control of the network in the end user, where they simply have a software in place and anyone can attach to themselves to the network and expand it, or rightfully so walk away from it at any given moment in time. The revenue
Hmm.
share models are much more lucrative in Deepin because, unlike Amazon and these other centralized entities, essentially the Deepin companies are not taking on much of any overhead. All the overhead is taken on by the end user that's providing the node and the infrastructure essentially. So the revenue share models end up being more like 80, 90, 95% back to the node operators themselves. That's essentially how DePIN functions. It gives much more freedom. Also, decentralization is huge, right? There's not one single point of failure in any of these DePIN models. Amazon goes down, believe it or not. I don't know. I think it's a high percent. Over half of the world's e-commerce space is getting shot down, right? Which is massive in decentralized settings, because there are so many endpoints contributing. If even if Nuvola went down, right, Iagon wouldn't suffer much because there's so many other users that are contributing, right? Same with Minutes and any of our other partnerships. A lot of these models are expansive, meaning that they're not limited to any amount of size or growth because they allow the end users to plug and play essentially. So that's where DeepIn essentially is going to be, in my opinion, the next big wave, like we saw with e-commerce in the early 90s. Another industry is gaming, decentralized gaming, having more ownership of in-game items, being able to monetize and resell like skins, helmets in specific games, right? And the nodes that run all these things are decentralizing the game on a global scale. We're partnered with Kopi, where let's say that they have certain game lag in like South America, for example, they need more server presence for their file nodes. We can establish our operations there and help increase the quality of the gaming within that certain region. You mentioned power grids. I don't know if this is a thing, but if someone can create a decentralized grid system where people can essentially, I'm spitballing here, right? But plug and play power generators into the grid so that it's not one single point of failure where there's one huge generating source that's powering the whole grid. Instead, it's 15,000 different smaller generators all powering in, where if one specific section goes down, the whole grid essentially is still up and running. And again,
If we have DePIN networks around energy source, if we have DePIN networks around internet, telecommunications, all these different things, then you have something you can connect to in the future where you're not reliant on governments, you're not reliant on major corporations to function to ensure your survival. Like if a power grid goes out here, I'm in Kentucky right now, I live in DC, you know a lot of us are going to be in a pretty bad situation and we wouldn't know what to do. But the fact that you can have decentralization around running these type of networks where people can come together and use what they have, and it's freedom in a whole new way.
when a problem is solved, something innovative comes into light, right? And I'm now, you just planted a seed in my head about how do power grids work. You hear about power outages all the time, right? And how people are affected. And if I had to guess, it's because there's one or two centralized entities that provides
100%.
power and resources to a large area. And when those go down, everyone is SOL, right? So maybe Nuvola can step in and see if there's already an established deep in power for the power grid sector, or maybe we can kind of investigate and formalize our own.
Just for all the entrepreneurs who ever hear this, two things I hear that you're shining at is having a vision for the future, recognizing opportunities coming down the road and seeing the big picture, number one, and then also developing great partnership. And so, like, was that just, kind of going into the entrepreneurship side of your life?